Welcome back to Growing Wisdom with Carol Harris and Marge Bigby. And this is episode 2 of Divine Masculine and Feminine. And this episode is about the imbalances and integration, finding harmony. And we will do a little recap on episode 1 and then get going. All right.
Good. Yeah,
So
I'm happy to be back into this conversation because I think we could go for many, many, many hours, but we won't bore everybody with all of our conversations about it. But there's so much to talk about and help people understand.
Yeah. And we touched on some of that stuff. We touched on the misconceptions of both the divine masculine and feminine, and the misconceptions about balancing both. And which I thought was pretty interesting. I thought it was because the weakness and passivity, the feminine is sometimes mistaken for being passive or submissive.
Right.
When in reality, it embodies profound wisdom, creativity, and emotional depth. And I think that that's true. There are a lot of misconceptions about what it means, what divine masculinity and femininity actually mean.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And that's why we're talking about it again.
Yeah. But there's so much to talk about.
There is. So we have recognizing the imbalances. And we did I think we spoke a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Aggression, right?
Yeah.
That's an imbalance. If you have an excessive amount of masculine energy, then you're going to be more aggressive, more controlling. What else? Pushy.
Yeah, controlling. That's kind of the same thing, right? Yeah, it's just that stereotypical bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like what when you oh, I'm sorry. As we're talking about this in my mind, I'm thinking, what is the stereotypical? Well, I always go back to the Marlboro Man. Not that this is an ad or anything like that, so it's not. But you see the man sitting on a horse, and he's, looking out there, and so I think of cowboys, the Western.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, drinking coffee with grounds in it, and, cussing up a storm and punching each other in the arm. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
right. Or if you think about this, okay, this is way back. I don't know how many people still know who Popeye is, but think about Popeye, and you had Olive Oyl, who was very feminine. She was very girly, very flowery, and needed to be saved. And then you had Brutus.
Yeah.
So he was big, burly, mean, grumpy grump, and that's not really the divine energy. That's an
and Brutus just wanted sweet. He just wanted her.
Yeah.
Right. And Popeye was I'll come and save you, Olive Oyl. Right.
Right. I mean, think back to high school. You got the stereotypical. You got the cheerleaders who were the feminine in our minds, right?
Yeah.
And then the football players.
Yeah.
But that was just one little part of their persona, not their whole persona.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because what you're saying just it makes me see something that I didn't recognize before. So we're right. We sit here and we could look at a yearbook and see the football players and see the cheerleaders, and then just look at them as though the football player and the cheerleader having no other substance to them.
Right.
Just based on our perception.
Yep. Of what you were exposed to about that person. Yeah. If it's your high school. Yeah, if you think about the movie The Green Mile, the guy in The Green Mile, and not real bright, but big and burly and scary looking, and the sweetest, most gentlest person, right? So that was two sides of the same person. And
Yeah.
you don't know anybody's heart.
Yeah.
You don't know their heart. And even if you live with them, you don't really know all of the layers that have caused this person to be who they are right in front of you.
Yeah. That's so true. That really is. And I recognize that too, like in relationships, you're like, you just know what you know
Yeah,
from
what
your
you've been allowed to
experience.
see.
Yeah, what you've been allowed to see. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people don't even
Well,
know in themselves.
yeah. No, well, that's true. And that's based on, we talked a little bit about it before, is like belief systems and,
Program.
what we believe about ourselves. Yeah, it's the programming. What we believe about ourselves, what we're told about ourselves, what we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then the things that we're ashamed of because we don't actually believe some of the beliefs that we're, you know what I mean?
That you
We
were
don't
told to
we
believe.
Yeah, we're like, but that doesn't feel right here. When I
Right.
when I hear that, I don't that doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
if I don't accept that, then I must be this way or I must be that way. So then I carry the shame,
Yeah.
right?
Or guilt or
Or guilt.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember driving up the New Jersey Turnpike on my way to work one day, talking to spirit, God, whoever you want. I don't know who I was talking to, one of them, spirit people, and or a bunch of them, who knows. And I says, well, you know, Jesus did all this. Why can't I? And they said, exactly. And then my Catholic kicked in and said, whoa, you're not Jesus. What are you saying? And I ended up in all this guilt thing in my head. It's
You
like,
have this
oh
tug of
gosh.
war. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just me. There was nobody else in the car with me. I was all my conversation with myself.
Yeah, that's the programming though. I
Yep.
mean, it's the belief system, the programming, um, and it's all around us.
Yeah.
It's all around us, and I'm sure it's changed, you know, from the time we were kids, that
Sure.
it's changed, and who knows how in some situations it's changed drastically,
Yeah.
but in others it has not, right?
Right.
And here we talked a little bit about roles, and roles could be a whole other 6-hour podcast,
Yeah.
you
Oh yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Easily.
easily. Yeah.
So what practices would you use to enhance your masculine or feminine trait? Or would
Well,
you?
well, I think first of all, for me, meditation is where I started. Well, I wouldn't say that. Before I became aware that there was a divine masculine and feminine, I had to live through those belief systems and then remove those coats, right, that did
Yeah.
not belong. And what happened is I came to this place where I was like, okay, Carol, self, um, where do I fit in if I am not those things that I believed I was?
Yeah. Who am I? Who am
Who
I
am I?
now?
Who am I now? And is it okay for me to be um, not just independent, but is it okay for me to stand my ground? Is it okay for me to not want to be controlled in situations? And that's like jobs, school, relationships, anywhere, because there's
Right.
that aspect, right? The masculine and feminine aspects are in all of those situations, and they're not always divine, right?
Yes, that's true.
So yeah, and so what I did after I started taking away some of the beliefs and then keeping some of the beliefs is I started meditating through yard work or art or writing, and then meditation came into play, and
Hmm.
I went big on meditation.
Yeah,
And during that, I learned to find neutral, which was the game changer. It was a game changer.
it is.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And the neutral, I don't know if that's a pretty common word being used. I mean, I've heard people talk about meditation and stuff like that, but I haven't heard a lot about people saying, yeah, I found neutral or 0 point, right?
Yeah.
And those places for me, during meditation, how I got there was I said to myself, just breathe, breathe in, breathe out. And I didn't say it out loud, it was in my mind.
Right.
Because these thoughts, it was like waves of thoughts, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, how does this meditation stuff work? Because this isn't helping, right?
Well, and it's funny because it does. Yeah, once you've gotten past it, you realize that it does.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're first starting, you're like, I'm supposed to quiet my mind. How the heck? Oh, I almost cussed. How the heck do I do that? And it's like, no. You just watch we'll have to do a whole class on meditation.
We
Just
will.
watch the conversations and observe yourself. This is
Yeah.
all about getting to know your heart.
Yeah.
And
Well,
same.
it's becoming the observer.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking that you are your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty interesting.
It
So
is.
like I said, I managed to do it. I counted, breathe in, or, I didn't count actually. I said to myself, breathe in, breathe out. So that was all I heard were my words, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in,
Yeah.
breathe out, until I realized, oh,
Yeah.
now I'm just observing, right? But the thing is too, and you had mentioned this about watching the thoughts. I'm going to let you speak more about that because it took me a very long time to understand that you just don't ignore the thoughts, you just don't push them away, you don't pretend they don't exist, and that's a whole other type of meditating.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're pushing them away, you're activating them and making them active. If you're just observing them, like watching the grass, like the grass blow in the wind or a bird fly across you're just watching it and enjoying it and acknowledging that this is nature. This is normal. And yeah, it took me a while to figure that one out
Yeah.
many moons ago.
Yeah.
Now
Meditation.
I don't count anymore because that engages my brain too much. If I'm going to do meditation, I'll use hemisync music for 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll take it off. And either I listen to the clock tick in the seconds because I have a one that does tick, tick, tick on the second hand ticks.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
if I'm outside, my neighbor has a radon fan that's broken. So it whines, just a
Yeah.
constant one tone whine. And you cannot engage with one tone. You can't. It's like listen to your air conditioner run. It's like, okay, yeah, I can listen to that and really focus in on that and the thoughts go away. But it took a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
It used to take me many, many minutes to get down into my heart and to center myself and now it's like most days it's about 5 seconds,
Yeah.
with
I
practice.
know. Yeah, it's so funny because when I first started, I was like, it's work. This trying to learn to meditate is work. When I first started to meditate, I had a really difficult time and I listened to a lot of people, and Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza were two of those people. And Joe Dispenza has this meditation, and it's it connects you to your heart, right? And I can't remember what it's called, but I listened to that. I listened to it, and I listened to it every day for probably 2 weeks until
Uh-huh.
I could lay there and then just go into the meditation without the what is that, the preliminary
Right.
stuff. And what that did is it actually took me to a whole other place where I was visualizing myself out in space.
Oh
And I was
yeah.
like, this is so cool.
Isn't that
And
so cool?
then
Don't you wish you could draw that?
I wish I could draw. I do. And then I got into it. And the reason why this came to mind is because you mentioned hemisync. My very first hemisync experience took me out of body. and it was a 25-minute meditation. And I was like, it was so amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And I know that everyone has different experiences. And I know that meditation, that type of meditation not everyone likes it. Some people don't meditate,
Right.
they find peace out in nature, sewing or
Yeah.
cooking or, listening to music.
Yeah.
But for me, the total silence really, it pulls me in. It really does.
Mhm.
And then becoming the observer of my thoughts, those things really helped me.
Yeah.
So,
There's so many different ways of getting to that point where you're able to accept and just observe, be
mhm.
present. I like your term of neutral. To
Yeah.
me, it's presence, but it's a little bit further than presence. I think it's a better
Mhm.
term. I may adopt it.
I like it. You could adopt it.
Thank you.
I'll share it with you.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, I like, I've heard of 0 point, and to me it's almost the same, but neutral has more of a friendly tone to it,
Easy
right?
way
So
about it. It's
yeah,
really relaxed.
yeah. So you're just
Yeah.
sitting there being neutral in the situation. And I adopted that in my meditation through being able to become the observer.
Right.
And I said to myself, the observer is neutral,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then once I was able to build that into my meditation, I thought, wait a minute, I can be neutral in my relationships.
Yeah. You could be neutral in everything. But I remember explaining to some of my younger coworkers, they said, your emotions don't have to be this up and down and up and down and up and down. I said, they could be more like this. And that's where I'm at in my life, thank God. Even when I had the car accident a few weeks ago, I came out of the car, checked to make sure the guy was okay. And I'm like, okay. And I stood in the middle of the road doing my breathing exercises to bring myself to center and make sure everybody was okay. And the EMT, the first responders are like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. You didn't even react. What's there to react to? It's over. I can't change it. You can't go back in time and change it. It is what it is.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that I believe that that should be taught. The breathing and stuff should be taught to children.
Yes.
Because in situations that are high stress, if they are taught to, ground themselves,
Yep.
right? Then that brings down what is that? It's a chemical in your body
The
that goes
cortisol,
there.
the
Yeah,
cortisol,
yeah.
the adrenaline.
The adrenaline,
Yeah.
right? Which is not good. It's not good for prolonged periods of time,
No.
and
And heck, we live in that
we do live in that.
in
So
the
to be
United
able
States
to,
anyway.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a very good practice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They thought I was strange. I kind of thought it was weird that I didn't react too, honestly. Because it's like, wow, now this is my only car. And it's got this big old, thank God the radiator didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I had somebody stop me at the grocery store the other day saying, you want me to put your hood down? It says, if you could, I would be grateful, but I can't even open it to check the oil. So I gotta get it's kind of stuck. It's not gonna fly up at me.
Oh gosh. Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah. No, it's magic. Meditation is magic.
it is. It
Hmm.
is. It is.
Yeah. Intention setting and self-awareness.
Yeah. And
So,
that's like observing yourself and making sure that you're aware of when you're getting out of
mhm.
balance, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like being self-aware. So, for example, let's say you get a phone call that's upsetting, and you're not really being self-aware, and how you would recognize that you are not is that you're reacting emotionally.
Hmm.
So, in a way that's outside of the realm of being in control, right? So I've gotten myself, you hear news or something's gonna, you get car breaks down and you're like, oh, criminy, right? You send it to the shop and they call you and they say, hey, it's going to cost you another XYZ. And you're like, oh, holy cow, right? So not being self-aware means you're being reactive to that call, and being self-aware means I'm going to take in the call, not be reactive, but give myself the opportunity to be self-aware, be calm in my thinking, organize my thoughts, right? So it's just seeing how you're acting and then taking control of that.
Mm-hmm.
Intention setting, that's a really good one. Intention
Yeah,
setting.
it's really important.
It really is. So, I can give you an example. Let's say there's a gathering happening and people at the gather, there are specific people that you don't want to necessarily have to come into contact with,
Right.
right? So, but this is a thing that you can't get out of, and so you got to go. So you have to put on your big people panties and you say to yourself, I'm setting the intention that I'm going to be self-aware and I'm not going to be reactive. My intention is to go and have a good time and to see who talk to who I want to talk to and
And not
enjoy the
talk to.
time and not let anything bother me. So your
Mm-hmm.
intention is to go have a good time and not uh, let yourself be upset by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes good sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, setting those intentions on a daily basis are really good for you to find your center and stay present in the moment. But
Mhm.
particularly when you know you're facing a situation that could be uncomfortable, or
Mhm.
you could, if you are not being intentional, very much react to.
Yeah. 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 Here's a daily one. So I'm going to go grocery shopping. You have to go with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't go with intention, here's my grocery list, and this is my intention. I intend to get only the things that are on my list.
Right.
And that for me is good because if I don't have a shopping list, then I will come out of there with a big chocolate bar and, you know, a nice big loaf of French bread that
Oh
I
yeah.
don't need, right? So I'm like, okay,
Right.
so my intention is to take care of my health by eating healthy, and I'm not going to go in there and buy a bunch of junk food if I go while I'm hungry. So my
Yeah.
intention is to follow my list.
Yeah.
Here's my list. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
just like when you're working, you've got, hopefully, you've got your task list for the day or the week or the month
Mhm.
that you're following to make sure that you're making the progress that you want to make in your life.
Yeah.
And that would be very good with building your empathy. So if you set an intention because you're not as compassionate or you don't display compassion as much as you would like,
Yeah.
to make sure that you're doing that. So you set a goal for yourself of, I want to 5 times this week show compassion to a stranger.
Mhm.
Keep
Yeah.
track of it so you can recognize that you're doing it. And as the
Yeah.
more you do things, the more they just become part of your personality and who you are.
That's really true. I mean, I think that so funny that you said that because there's this one person that I speak to fairly often, and sometimes I could be triggered by the conversation. And what triggers me is in these conversations, sometimes I don't feel like I'm being heard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, um, and so then I would say something, hey, this is how I feel about what you just said, right?
Right.
And so I thought to myself, this isn't serving me. Being reactive isn't serving me, even though it's me saying what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Um, how I'm feeling. It's not serving me because then it becomes about me and it's not about our relationship and how we're communicating.
Right.
So I set the intention that instead of letting myself get triggered, I would be more neutral and being open to having the conversation without having any opinions of my own about the conversation. How I wanted it to go no longer became and
Right.
intention.
It
Right.
became more about the experience than
The experience.
the subject matter.
That's right. So my intention was to go into the conversation and not be triggered.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That can be so challenging. I'm proud of you.
well, yeah. Well, and the thing is I've been practicing this for like a couple of months now, and it's working. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, well, gosh.
Yeah. It
What?
just turns it off. When your mind has been trained and programmed to react a certain way, your body also gets trained. And so the hormone levels change and all these things change as a reaction to your mental state at the time. And your body just, it'll do it without you.
Yeah, it will.
You won't even.
Yeah.
So you have to retrain your brain and retrain your body on how to do these things.
Yeah. You know what's really funny about that is this is being reactive for me was having my divine feminine out of whack, right? So I was being more aggressive, I think. And I'm not saying I was aggressive, but I was like saying, I was like, oh, I can't, my tone was, I was upset. So my tone was like, I'm upset. I want
Harsh.
you to listen
Yeah.
to me. Yeah, please listen to me. I'm upset. So, so my divine feminine was out of whack. And so what I did is I brought it back into, right, into neutrality or stability or empathy, and decided I would make it more about the experience and not wanting to, um, be abrasive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not wanting it that,
Now, that's one thing about strengthening your energy, and on either side, you don't want to try and push something away. Never try and push something away. It doesn't work. You have to raise up the solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a totally different way of looking at it than I ever looked at stuff when I was younger. I was pushing stuff away that I didn't want instead of filling the space for it with something I did want.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, that the same for me too. I pushed a lot of things away. But
Yeah.
you know what's funny, and I think you mentioned it before, is when you push things away, I mean, they have a tendency to, it's almost like a
You're
boomerang.
focusing
It
on them.
comes right back
Yeah.
at you. Yeah, so you don't know when,
Yeah.
but there's always feedback. There's like a loop thing that happens if you don't, experience that thing. If you're holding on to these things or pushing them away, they come around in this loop.
Well,
Here I am
yeah,
again. You're
because
like,
in order,
no, go away. Then you push them, and here they come back again. You're like,
yeah,
get out of my face.
yeah, the universe doesn't understand the word no.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't.
right.
It's not
That's
an
right.
option. There is only positivity. And
Yeah.
so if you say, I don't want something, it's here and I want something, because
Yeah.
that's where your focus is.
Yeah.
If you're focused on, uh, let me think of something mundane to focus on. If you're focused on seeing a certain colored bird, that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see all the blackbirds and the orange birds and the robins and all that. You're going to see only what you're looking for eventually. That's because that's what's going to grab your attention, because you've got a trigger set in your brain to filter for that. If you think about all the things your brain filters out from moment to moment, it's not filtering, it's not paying attention to your breathing, your heart rate, the wind blowing behind you, the dog walking past your feet, all the things that are going around you, the thousands of things that are happening around you. We're paying attention to each other in this conversation, and so all those other things are filtered out. If you put in your mind that you don't want something, you're getting it, baby.
Yeah. No,
Because you
that's
set a filter
true.
for it.
That's true. Yeah. That's so funny because it's so true. Oh.
Thanks for joining us on Growing Wisdom today. We've enjoyed sharing our information with you about divine masculine and divine feminine energy. We may have another podcast about this in the near future. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and come check us out at Neuvias.com and
branchesofconsciousness.com.
we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.